Attention, fans of Unfinished Business Television, we're thrilled to announce our proud partnership with Super 7, the ultimate destination for collectors and pop culture enthusiasts alike. Visit super74.com/AJEPYX today. Use promo code AJEPYX, and let's keep the good times rolling here at Unfinished Business Television.
Hey, folks, welcome back to another new episode of Unfinished Business Television. This week, we have a special guest with us. Let me give her a little introduction, as she's also our third screenwriter we have interviewed. Screenwriters are commonly the architects of stories, imaginations, structure. Our guest is a noted screenwriter, producer, director. You definitely know her work from What's Love Got to Do with It, To Set It Off, to Beauty Shop, and even the infamous Glitter, as well as the Mod Squad. We are honored to have the esteemed and fellow New York born and raised screenwriter, Kate Lanier, as our guest this week.
So, Kate, thank you so much for coming on to the show. We really admire a lot of work that you've written in the past. Many of these films we actually grew up on in the 90s, especially What's Love Got to Do with It and Set It Off. So, usually, like we ask our guests, what got you started in the business?
It's so funny because I grew up in Harlem in the Johnson houses, 112. They're the projects between one of Lexington between 112th and 115th. And I was like a little bit of a badass, or I thought I was. I was like running wild, and my mom's Jewish. She was a Holocaust survivor. Dad was Creole from New Orleans, mixed. And they're both communists, intellectual. They never worked. And we never had money. We were always like food stamps, government cheese, that kind of thing. But one of the good things my mom did was she was like, okay, I got to get this girl off the streets. So I'm going to put her in theater classes, free theater classes. So I did a lot of acting as a kid, right? And as a teen, like weird, like off Broadway shows. Like anytime they needed a kid, I would like go audition, Sound of Music, some weird experimental thing where they needed a kid. I'd go do it, go downtown, go do it, right? So I started off acting, but I always loved writing, just personally, like journaling or writing little stories, whatever. But I never wanted to really be a writer. I was like, but I thought I wanted to be an actress. Cut to in hanging out. I'm living downtown, basically. I'm going to Vassar College. I got a full ride to go to Vassar, and but I'm bartending at this club called Area, probably before your time. It was open like 80, I want to say 84, 85 through to like, no, earlier than that, maybe. Yeah, 83 to maybe 87. And it was like bigger than Studio 48. It was like the freaking club. It was Jean-Michel Basquiat, Keith Haring, Grace Jones. These were the people there every night. And then afterwards we go to Paradise Garage and dance till like 10 a.m. and then go to another club. It was insane. And I was bartending there and going to Vassar, which is like on a train. I could take the train had all my classes, right? I arranged this, all my classes were like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then I'd take the train back to the city, bartend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, go back to Vassar, try to do my classes, going back and forth like that. And I started hanging out with these cats downtown who were who were NYU students at Tisch School. And they started using me in their movies because I was like, oh, I'm an actress, I'll be in your movies. And I meet Alan Taylor, who's now like a huge director, right? He's like Game of Thrones, Sopranos, he directed every episode pretty much, right? He's going on now to do like every freaking movie and TV show you can, Mad Men, blah, blah, blah. So at the time, he's like a young student at NYU, and he's like, oh yeah, let's do this movie. We started dating, and he wrote the script, and so the movie is called That Burning Question. You can look it up. Of me, John Leguizamo, and this other guy. It was a great movie. And I just thought like, oh, it's gonna be nothing, black and white, right? It was fucking brilliant. Alan's like a genius. This movie goes on to open at the New York Film Festival. And I want to say 91, maybe 92, something like that. And he wins every award. It's like best short, best this, Nissan Focus Award. He has that experience, like that big picture experience where like everybody's calling him. Steven Spielberg, David Cameron, come out to California. I want to meet you. Blah, 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 right? He met all these agents, la la la. And he meets like this agent at Triad, Rhonda Gomez, who was repping Charles Barnett, Spike Lee, all these people, right? And Alan and everyone's like, oh, who's the actress? That was the lead, right? He's like, oh, who's that actress? She was really good. And he goes, oh, she's also a writer. So, because I had meanwhile just been like messing around writing scripts, for myself, really. And Alan says to this agent, Rhonda, he's like, oh, yeah, she writes scripts. And Rhonda's like, oh, I'd love to see one of those. And Alan, just being generous, is like, oh, here. He gives her one of my scripts. And it was a sort of semi-autobiographical script, but with a kind of fantasy element. Girl growing up in Harlem who has an African-American guardian angel. And to make a long story short, she ends up trying to sell it. It gets in a bidding war. Warner Brothers buys it. Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, who had produced all the Transformer movies, he's a big producer, he bought it. And so from then on, I started getting jobs, started getting work. That's how I started. And the acting thing kind of just fell away, And then I moved out to LA, which I fucking hated. And I'm sorry, my language. I had never driven a car, and because I grew up on the subway, and so I was like, it was really rough. I was living at Venice Beach and having all these meetings in Burbank, Disney, Studio City, and I was like, I would get on the freeway like terrified, like. And I knew the exit I had to get off. But I was like, oh my God, I can't cross those lanes. I couldn't do it, and I would just keep going and end up in like, I don't know, Hawthorne or wherever. Like I couldn't do it. So I ended up taking surface streets from Venice to, Burbank. And so then I moved from LA up to Santa Barbara, which is where I live now. And right now, I'm actually in Vermont working with Darnell Martin, who's a director, and we're doing something together. Yeah.
Nice.
Good. Yes. My question is, I know looking at your resume, you have a lot of, I would say, life rights or biographical films of musical. And I'm just wondering, do you find it easier to write original screenplays, or do you have more fun writing the more biographical screenplays because it causes research and you get to.
It's a balance. I think I actually have a sort of a balance in there. The biopics I think are harder because you really do have to adhere to the truth,
Mhm.
You can't just go off and be like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if she didn't have 7 children and just had one and had a relationship with that one, no. So in some ways it's more difficult, you know. So it's I think it's more interesting to be able to create something that is, it's not based on anything. Right. I mean, like some people think that, Glitter, Mariah's script is a Bible. It has nothing to do with her. Nothing. That was pure fiction. So yeah. And so that to me is definitely more interesting.
Okay.
That yeah.
Well, speaking of glitter, because we just did an
Yeah.
episode on this recently, and she said in an interview, Mariah Carey, that a lot of the grit that I think you had written was kind of taken out to make it more polished, more for young girls. And watching that movie, I've always had that issue with the Dice character. I felt like he wasn't that likable. Supposed to be the male lead.
Mhm.
And then the Eric Benet character just kind of disappears. It looked like there was something going on there. What changed between the script and the production process?
Child, we worked 2 years. I mean, I basically lived with her. And her acting coach, Sheila Gray, who I give a lot of credit to because we we would come up with these different scenes, and Sheila would have Mariah improv stuff and I would be writing things. The whole concept of the story it was like an Al-Anon story. The story of a girl who falls in love with a serious drug addict, right? And a fucked up serious drug who gets worse and worse and worse and pulls her down to the depths. And when I say the depths, prostitutes her. Okay, she gets fucking raped, gang, like dark shit, right? It was supposed to be like gritty and dark and show off Mariah's acting chops because she was learning and had been working with Sheila for a couple of years and was actually becoming a good actress. And so we were writing this like very R script. Okay, so 2 years in the making of just doing the script. And it was at Sony. I'm not gonna say names because I mean everyone knows who was running Sony at that time.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, we know.
Okay, it was greenlit. Director was attached. We were in pre-production, ready to go. We're all like, yeah, it's gonna get made, la la la. That person who was running the studio suddenly has this brilliant revelation that Mariah's audience is like 13-year-old girls. She goes, oh, wait a second. The people who go, oh no, wait a second. People, first of all, have to buy the record and I have to go see the movie, are 13-year-olds. So you have to cut all this part out. Cut this all out, right? Can't be R. It was devastating. Like, we couldn't, I had to, it was like a fucking clear cutting of this script. So what ended up getting shot had nothing to do with the actual script.
Wow.
It was like kind of scenes put together that were the like most mild, non offensive pieces of. Like, I remember sitting in a movie theater with Mariah, like screening it and with Sheila for the first time, and we walked out. We were crying, all three of us. We were like sobbing. Like, I can't believe, like, that's what it is. That's what it ended up after all that. It was heartbreaking. The other piece of it is that they released it like a day after 9/11.
Mhm.
I figured went ahead and released it. I was like, who's going to go to the movie theater? Everyone was glued to their TVs watching the towers fall, right? So it's like Mariah and her team were also begging them to just hold off a little, before you release it. And they're going, no, we got to release it. And yeah, so that was heartbreaking. That is one of the things about, being a screenwriter is that, once you do your piece of it, you get paid, it's out of your hands. It's like the director comes in, the producer comes in, the studio ultimately, is footing the bill. It's their notes, is their call. It's out of your hands, right? And so sometimes it works, and it turns out the way you imagine, and sometimes it's like something completely different. Yeah.
It's just with when it comes to like the film Set It Off, was that an original spec screenplay and idea by you?
No, Takashi Buford had written the script about a group of friends who end up robbing banks, but they were completely different characters. It was like two guys and two girls, and they had completely different motivations. And then what happened was Dana got involved. Queen Latifah got involved. She really had this one character in mind, her character. And then at some point we decided to make an all women, all female cast. And so anyway, so I had to go like sort of to figure out like who were these women, what was their motivation, what was their friendship, like what was the backstory, like why did they get to this place, So I had gotten to a certain point with the script and in developing the characters and where they came from. And then Gary F. Gray was hired as the director, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Gary's like a genius with like action stuff and original like wild action stuff. Like I remember sitting on the ground with him with like Matchbox cars, and he'd be like, no, they like crash through the bank, and then we see them go backwards. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm like writing all this shit down, He said, no, the camera's gonna be here, and then we're gonna see them like jump here, and then the camera will go here, and I'll shoot it from here and here, and I'm like, okay, I actually learned a lot from him as far as like writing action, and writing, original action stuff. Yeah. He's amazing. Amazing director. Yeah.
So I see your bio. You've also done a lot of, I guess you would call script doctoring work. So you worked
Yeah.
on Dance with Me and Honey with Jessica Alba.
Yeah.
that process work? And how do you make peace when you have to inherit somebody else's material like that?
Well, I mean, because I've had a lot of scripts where someone else has jumped on, right, and written it. So I feel like it's kind of it's just the way the game is. You know what I mean? In the industry, it's like whoever's footing the bill, and they want it their way, and they want this particular feel or this particular writer for whatever reason to come in and put their stamp on it, right? So it's happened to me. Like I've had a script I loved that someone else came in and completely changed, you know, and then I've had to do the same thing. So I kind of feel like it in some weird way, it all balances out. You know, I don't take it personally anymore. It's like, whatever. Like at this point, at some point, like a couple of years into it, I was like, once I've sort of once I've sort of done my job, I let go. I have to completely let go of it, you know. And if I'm hired to come in and do it, I just sort of say a prayer and go like, okay, God, like just help me do the best job I can and make this, what they're asking me to make it, you know. Um and yeah, serve that serve whatever boss is giving me the notes, and try to accomplish it the best I can. But yeah, it's not easy, definitely. There's a bunch of movies out there that I have doctored where my name's not on it. Nobody knows that I've doctored it because, in exchange, I got a paycheck, and the original writer, how do I put this? Politically, they didn't want people to know that his work had been, you know, doctored by a female or by a whatever or by someone else. And so in exchange for a paycheck, like my name was never included. So I did a lot. I mean, there were a few years in there. I did a lot of doctoring where I completely changed the script and my name's not on it. A bunch of movies. So yeah. It's like a really trippy industry, studio. I mean, I would love, my dream would be to, write and direct my own stuff and produce it and finance it myself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have money to finance it myself. That's not what I'm saying. I'm broke, but I would love to write something, get financing where I have creative control and direct it. Like that's the dream, you know.
Isn't it all of ours? Is there a genre that you prefer writing in, or one that you find a little bit more challenging?
Um, for me, like I've always just loved the complexity and the tension of grounded, real drama and characters, right? Like that's always been my lane. Like, you know, how how real can I make this feel? Every human being is not one thing. Like I think there's so many movies out there that are just like tropes of what human beings are. And so I've always felt like, okay, I want to bring some reality and honor like the spirit of who this character is, which is always complicated, right? And so I've always felt like drama that was like the lane I love. But then I just did a sort of a comedy, a romantic comedy, just a short that I wrote and directed that I freaking love because, I don't know who said it, if it was probably Shakespeare or someone brilliant. Like comedy, there's a very fine line between comedy and tragedy, right? So I wrote this story with this very like deluded, tragic guy, but it's very funny. It ends up being very funny. And so I was like, oh wow, I kind of like this too. This could be, I like doing this too. I don't know. The one genre I've never done that I'm actually kind of exploring right now is horror. I've never done that. I have two boys, and my older son, who's 23, is like a horror. He's beyond a horror buff. Okay, he's obsessive about horror. He'll be like, Roger Corman 1971 version is much better than the 1962 where you had blah, blah, blah. Check out The Evil Dead 2013. Like he knows everything. He's seen every horror movie. Knows every actor, every director. He can like talk to you about various themes and why one movie is, more significant than another. And yeah, it's crazy. But I've always been like, why is he attracted to it? I don't understand. I hate horror, I hate it only because I can't handle it. He was like, you have to see when Hereditary came out. Okay. Like, oh my God, Mom, this guy's so creative. Ari Aster, oh my God, this is the most brilliant horror movie. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it with me, right? And I was like, Henry, my younger son Tyrone is like me. Like we don't like horror, right?
Mhm.
And but Henry's like, oh please, you gotta watch it with me because it's really smart and it's really well done. And so I agreed. I was like, if we can watch it in the daytime, I'll watch it with you, right? So I sit down, watch this movie. At the end of the movie, I turned to him and I was like, I fucking hate you. I cannot believe you made me watch that shit. I will never forgive you. I had nightmares for years. I mean, not years, but for months. Toni Collette, that moment she's like, oh, across the ceiling, I was like screaming. I had nightmares about that. And I was like, I can't believe you made me watch that shit. I will never be the same. I will never be the same. Yeah.
Speaking of Ari Aster, he took me to see Midsummer, and I couldn't sleep after 3 days.
I know. I mean, I get how he's like a genius. You know what I mean? In that lane. But it's too much for me. It was too much for me. Like I'm my mother, like decapitate. It was too much. Like I could not handle it. Like there's some old campy horror that feels so unreal. I can kind of watch it, but otherwise, it's really hard for me.
Yeah, too realistic.
Exactly. When the characters are genuine and feel real, then it's really, really difficult to watch horror for me.
So, going back to your list of unproduced screenplays, there were two that stood out that I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
One was your remake of A Star Is Born that was supposed to star Whitney Houston, and the other was a dance movie with John Travolta that Babyface was supposed to produce. Can you tell us the stories about those?
Yeah. I love that story. Oh my God. So the story is John Travolta is he's like a middle-aged ex-ballroom star, right? He was at one point like a huge ballroom star. And he's become a canine trainer for the police. So he has all these like German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois, and he trains them. And that's his deal. Like the first time we see him, he's lying in bed with like a pile of dogs, right? And then boom, we see him in the park and he's like, shoosh, and he's working these dogs and they're amazing. And he like hands them off to the various cops, who use them. Then we meet this young Dominican girl who wants to be, a ballroom star, but she can't afford like the coaching that she needs. And so essentially she finds out that this guy was once like this big star and he doesn't want to have anything to do with her, but she basically is like, I can't remember if it's like, I'll clean up after your dogs or I'll walk your dogs, whatever. Somehow they work out a deal where she convinces him to teach her. And so the relationship that they develop is like the fun of it, because it's not romantic per se. He's an older guy, she's like 19, but they end up having this like great love for each other and respect for each other and have fun to get, and which develops over the course of the movie. And she becomes really good and starts like winning these competitions. And yeah, I thought it was a great idea, a great movie. And yeah, it never got made.
And was the Stars Born remake with Whitney Houston, was that going to be anything similar or different to what Bradley Cooper ended up doing?
Totally different. It was going to really mirror the original. Much more closely hew to the original movie, and it was going to be Whitney and Will Smith.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was her company developing it. I don't remember if he had signed on or had just like verbally agreed to do it, and it was a pretty close mirror to that original one. Yeah. And then I think at the point I had finished writing it, Whitney was not doing so well. And so, yeah, I think it was at Warner Brothers. And they were not willing to go ahead with it. Yeah. For that reason. Yeah.
Well, looking at your resume, I saw that you wrote for a show that I actually enjoyed, Rebel with Katie Seagal.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, was that the first time you also ever directed something?
No, because I had directed. Okay, so after I did What's Love Got to Do with It, Touchstone Disney gave me some money to direct. I directed 2 35-minute short pieces. Okay, so I really learned. I sort of figured shit out doing that because they gave me a really good budget, and I asked. I don't know why these people agreed, but I got really brilliant, DP, brilliant production designer, brilliant music guys, and I know what the fuck I was doing, but I had like my DP, Jamie Anderson. I don't know if he's still around, but he shot What's Love Got to Do with It. He shot a ton of movies. And so I'd be like, "Oh, do you think we need to do a cutaway here? Should I do a close up?" I was like kind of finding my way, and he was so helpful, and he'd like come up to me and he'd be like, "You've got your master. I would add a couple of little close ups so that you have things to cut away to." And I was like, "Good idea." Like he basically really helped me. And then I did another one, and so yeah. That was where I mean, I love directing, but And I had always from day one said like, oh, can you, put me out there, to my agent, like, just tell people I want to direct, like, put me out there as a director. I don't care, even if it's not my stuff, just put me out there as a director, right? The thing is, it was like, we're talking like from when did I join the Writers Guild? 92. So from that point on, I was asking like, give me, I want to direct. But, it's very sexist as far as directing goes, or was. I mean, I think it still is a bit. There's very few, I mean, there's less women directors, particularly women of color. And so Doug, I also had a manager, Doug Chapin, and he would be like, oh yeah, they offered you something to direct. And I'd be like, oh, get all excited and be like, oh, you're kidding. What is it? And he'd be like, it's Blue Crush 2, And I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. And I was like, I'm not gonna spend 2 years on Blue Crush 2, So it's like I feel like I never got a shot at anything that, I really wanted to put time into. And then scripts of my own that I had been paid to write, they weren't gonna let me direct. Because they were scripts for like a particular big star, or they were scripts that they'd hired me to write at a studio where they were looking, to work with a particular director, particular talent, whatever. And so they weren't going to let me direct it. I just didn't have the experience. So, it's it's like a hard nut to crack to get in there, as a female, I think.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But that's my dream still.
Yeah, talk about, we were speaking a little bit before we came on about the state of business right now, because you've gone through COVID, you've gone through the strikes. Now AI is starting to become more and more of a hot button topic every day, and how that's affecting your profession. I mean, where do you...
Nobody
Yeah.
who's working, basically. I hear nobody. I mean, I know like, writers, I know actors, I know directors. And we're all like, what the? There are no jobs. No one's hiring anyone for anything. It's just like not. I mean, yeah, the stuff streaming or whatever, but the balance. Here's in my mind what happened. Incorrect. And then this is just my messed up perspective, but this is what I feel like happened. And I was out there marching, during the strike with my fellow writers, right? So I was fully behind like the gains that we made. But I feel like there was a backlash, right? So they went, oh, you want to get paid that much? Well, then fuck you. We're going to do some more reality. We're going to do like, 3,000-pound sisters. We're going to do like 90-day fiance. Like, we don't have to pay writers then. I feel like they pulled back on written material. I feel like they pulled back, and now they're doing like, look at Max. It's like all reality stuff. So I don't know. It just feels like there was a big like, oh yeah, you want some more money? Okay, here it is. Here it is, but we won't hire you, But I could be wrong. Although I will say, WGA, like the newsletter I get, like the numbers as far as like how many writers are working is down. At least in film. For So yeah, just kind of messed up, I think. Since there's so much streaming, I mean, there's so much streaming out there, you would think they would need more writers, right? And somehow it's not working out that way. It's like weird.
Well, it's sort of like when you watch Netflix, for instance, how it used to be, oh, new shows, new movies, and now documentaries, 5 parts for a story that really only needed one.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. True that. Exactly. A lot of true crime, people obsessed with true crime, and these reality things, that I refuse to watch. I'm like, yeah.
Trust me.
So
Oh, sorry.
no, that's okay. So as we start wrapping up, do you have any advice for aspiring writers looking to get into the business right now?
There's some places if you can get in, I would say like try to get into school. Like there's this amazing school, the David Lynch School, where you learn screenwriting and filmmaking is the bomb. My friend is going there right now, and they really, really work with you to hone your craft in a very concrete. Some schools are like a little airy fairy about it. They're really super concrete, and then they really help expose you, right? They bring agents in, they bring producers in, and you get your material out there, right? That's one route. And then the other one is like, make your own shit. Like, I wish I'd done that earlier. Like, write a script. You got an iPhone, shoot it, get your friends, make it, stick it up on Vimeo, stick it up on YouTube. Like, keep making stuff, keep making material, put your own stuff out there. Like, all the young people I know who are getting like picked up, it's because they have an original voice. They're being authentic to their voice, but they have the drive, they have that intention. They're putting it out. So they're going, okay, I'm going to stay true to myself. I'm going to tell a story with an authentic voice. I'm going to write it. I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to put it out there somehow, And you can do that today. Like back in the day, you couldn't do that. I mean, that's great about right now. Like my Tyrone, my younger son, is an actor, and he's really good. And some of the stuff he does, like with his friends, is they just do these projects and put them on whatever social media platforms. Like I'm not a huge social media person, so I'm an old lady, so that's not my lane necessarily. But I get it. And it's like, but the thing is, that is a pathway, right? And it's not even about like, oh, someone's gonna see it, make me a star. It's that you are honing your craft. You're honing your craft continually, right? So if you're saying to yourself, all right, we've got 3 weeks, here's the script, it's 25 minutes, let's do it, then you are learning. Let's do another one. You're learning more. So if you are continually practicing it, if you're continually creating material and putting it out there, you're also continually learning. By your mistakes, by what worked, what didn't work. So it's like you just have to keep doing it. Yeah. Which is like, I think today you have more opportunity than ever to do that.
True.
So, Jeff, any last questions for Kate before she has to head out?
I guess my last question would be, do you have any literary or artistic heroes or maybe even a mentor?
I've never had a mentor. I definitely have like my literary hero. See, I didn't really watch. I wasn't allowed to watch really film or TV or anything when I was growing up, but I read, I was like one of those kids who like walked around the neighborhood with my nose in a book, walking into a telephone pole, and I remember picking up, like, there was a cardboard box in the projects outside that was filled with, like, someone had thrown out some books. And I picked up, there were 2 Alice Walker books, The Color Purple and one of her memoirs. And I picked them up and read them, and it blew my fucking mind. I was like, I want to write like that. And then I read Toni Morrison, and I was like, I want to write like that. But I would say those 2 would be, as far as a writer, would be my biggest inspiration. Nothing to do with film per se, but as far as writing, I mean, look, the best film is character driven. It's character. And so, and that's what I got from their writing, was character. Yeah.
Is there any social media or websites that people can follow you?
Yeah, I wish. You guys look up, you go to Instagram and look up Lucky the Movie, is what I think it is.
Okay.
It's either Lucky the Movie or Lucky by Kate. Lucky by Kate. And you can watch this comedy I just did. Yeah. That's called Lucky. Yeah. I don't have a huge like Insta or TikTok account or anything like that, unfortunately.
Well, we definitely would love to check it out and plug in at the end of the show. Yeah, Kate, thank you so much for this, and hope to have you back because we have so many more questions about movies you've read.
Have me back. I'd love to. You guys are great.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
If you like this review, please be sure to like and hit subscribe to be alerted to new episodes in the future.